Hello everybody and welcome back to the 7 Smushed Eggy channel. We've got my skunk with me tonight, or this morning. And today I'm gonna be doing a Panic at the Disco album review. Woo! I might be a little harsh because I used to be a huge fan of Panic back in high school, you know, the cringe days. But as time has went on, I have not been as big of a fan because after seeing Brendon Urie live one time, he gave me the worst vibes and it made me not really like him anymore. And usually I don't really let the artist impact the music, but for him it actually did kind of impact the music. So here we go, bitches. Okay, so the first album that we have to talk about is their A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, their 2005 album. I've been seeing a lot of mixed reactions from this album because I was under the impression that this was kind of like a cult classic, like every Panic fan really, really liked this album. But I've actually been seeing some really negative reviews about this album. And I mean, although I agree that it's a mess, like it's just a fucking mess. You can tell like they were just having fun with it. But like for me, that kind of was really charming. Like I really like how disjointed it all is, and like it's a little cocky and arrogant. But again, Brendon didn't even write these lyrics, so not really fair to put that label on him yet. He definitely is arrogant and cocky, but I wouldn't blame him for this album. A lot of people criticize the awful auto-tune, but I feel like it's intentionally awful, so I mean, whatever. Like I don't mind the cringy auto-tune because it's just a really fun and chaotic album. And a lot of these songs I kind of grew up with because of high school, so I probably have that bias. But I'm gonna give it an A. I really like a lot of the songs on this album. I like Lying is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off. Has the, you know, the traditional paragraph long titles. I can't even remember all of them. But I like Build God, Then We'll Talk a lot. That song's really underrated, I feel like, and it's really fun to sing. This whole album is just really fun to sing. Like, me and him have like a similar range. Not when he goes crazy. Like, I'm not gonna pretend I can even do that like shit that he does, but I don't know. And he sounds a lot raw. He sounds really raw and like he sounds his age, but he, even when he wasn't as like professionally trained to sing at this point, he still has all this natural talent that really seeps through. And like I've heard people say that like he sounds awful, and I'm pretty sure Brendon says that he sounds awful, but I don't think so at all. Like I kind of like it. I mean, he definitely did improve with time, but I don't know, something about this stage of Panic at the Disco I really liked. And this is when they still felt like a band, and that's what really sold me on their energy and vibe, you know? A big criticism that I have for recent Panic at the Disco feels more like Brendon at the Disco, and at this point I feel like he should separate himself from the name because it's not even this, it's not the same thing anymore. Just be Brendon Urie a solo project at this point. Like, you ain't the same as you used to be. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one an A. I think it gets a lot more shit than it deserves, and it's definitely pretty fun. It's just... So the next album we have to talk about is Pretty Odd, their 2008 release, their sophomore album, if you would. This is a completely different vibe. At this point, I'm kind of getting the impression that Panic at the Disco doesn't really know what they are trying to be or want to be. Oh, fuck. Hello? Sorry, brief intermission. But I'm not really sure what the vibe was, but I actually really, really like this album. I know a lot of people are like, it's a Beatles clone or whatever, but it's pretty awesome. Like, these songs are super catchy and they're super nice in the background. Brendon sounds really good. He has like such a, I don't know, he has such a clean voice, I guess, and it's just really soothing to listen to. There's some bangers. My favorite songs are probably Northern Downpour, obviously, and I really like When the Day Met the Night. That's such a romantic, beautiful song. Yes, it's sappy, but I'm a sappy bitch, so suck my nuts. I'm actually not a huge fan of the single 9 in the Afternoon, though. That's kind of a hot take. I'm gonna give this album an A as well. I really like it. I think it's pretty ignored in the Panic discography, but it's really good. Also, a lot of Teruvial on Fleek. Okay. A lot of people complain about the duet vocals in this album, and they're like, "Wow, he sounds like shit." But I mean, to me, it sounds fine. Like, yeah, he's not as good as Brendan, but you can tell that they were having a lot of fun. So, yeah, he's not the best singer, but he's not terrible. Like, he was pleasant enough to listen to. So, overall, pretty good album. But this type of style never returns again because so far it's kind of looking like they do random shit. So. Next, we have a complete style change again, Vices and Virtues, their 2011 release. This is actually my favorite Panic album. I'm going to give it an S just right off the bat. I just really like the vibe, even though they're kind of taking a more poppy approach, which I didn't mind because, I don't know, it still didn't feel like generic pop music you would hear on the radio, even though, yes, some of these songs were on the radio, like, ready to go. But this album just has a lot of cool songs like Ballad of Mona Lisa, and I also really like Nearly Witches. And I don't know, I just really like the vibe of this entire album. I also just really like the visual theme of it. It reminds me a little bit of The Open Door, I guess, the color scheme, which I know that doesn't really impact how the music sounds like, but this album is really good. And yeah, I do kind of miss the more edginess that like Fever had, obviously, but they never returned to this, and they never will again, because this is pretty much the last album where they start sounding like a full band, and starting from here on out, it's gonna sound a lot more like Brendan is doing shit by himself, which I mean, technically, he kind of is. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, he's really talented and he's always been the face of the band. However, it is going to impact how the music sounds later on. Next is his album Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die. This album is kind of a mixed bag. Brendan is kind of doing shit by himself, but overall, he holds himself together pretty decently. There's some questionable songs, like, what was it called? Where it's like, love is not a choice. You know that song? Fuck, dude. Let me look it up what that one was called. Okay, I found it. It's the girls/boys song. That song has a really good, like, intending message, but then it also kind of gives me this weird vibe that he's sexualizing bisexual girls/lesbians and kind of, like, wanting to be a part of it, which gives me, like, a stinky, like, you're kind of creepy, Brendan. And also, Brendan looks like a fucking ice cream cone, like Jimmy Neutron, and it's kind of, like, I don't mean to be, like, fucked up for saying that, but, like, relax, bro. Just chill. So, it's a really, like, catchy song, though, and this is when Panic at the Disco is super poppy. Like, they were getting to this poppy element, but now it's, like, super fucking poppy, and it vibes. A lot of these songs get stuck in your head, and I really like them. Vegas Lights is really good. Obviously, Miss Jackson, This Is Gospel, has a lot of really good hits. I'm gonna give it an A. I also am not a huge fan of songs like Nicotine because he sounds really fucking whiny in them, and not in like a good way. It's just a negative, like, bro, you're giving me a migraine. And some of these songs have questionable electronic use slash auto tune that isn't as endearing as it was in Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Like, it's honestly just kind of annoying and grating in some of these tracks. But it's like weird because they have like really high tracks, and then they have really like mid songs. So maybe I'm gonna change it to a B actually, because those bad songs kind of weigh it down for me. But it's still a pretty good album. Next, we've got Death of a Bachelor, and this is when I start getting worried and stop really being a fan of the band. because I feel like this album is extremely mid. And there's a lot of questionable things that start to bother me in the messages behind the songs. And overall, it's just kind of a boring album in comparison. And I understand that he worked on literally everything for this album. Lyrically, instrumentally, like this was literally, it's just him at this point. And I think it was that way for Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die too, but he had some help on that one. But this one, it was literally like all by himself. And credit to where it's due. He's really talented to be able to make a whole album by himself. However, this album is kind of mid and I don't really listen to it. It gives me a sour taste in my mouth, especially because of the messages. And I'm an English major, so I care about message. Like, let's take Death of a Bachelor, the song, for example. I don't really understand, like, it has that stereotype trope where it's like, oh, once you get married, like, your freedom as a man is gone. And I never really liked that message because it's like, okay, then don't get married. Like, literally no one asked you. Like, why are you making such a dramatic ass, it's the death of my bachelorhood. Like, oh no, I can't sleep with 100 women. Like, that just, like, icky to me. Like, you should be happy that you're spending the rest of your life with someone, and like, why do you have to make it such a negative, weird thing? You know what I'm saying? Then he tries to sound like Frank Sinatra in that song, and I'm like, bro, shut your bitch ass up. You're annoying as fuck. And this is when his like cockiness is really like an entitlement is starting to seep through his lyricism and stuff, and it just rubs me the wrong way. I really don't like it. Like, I'm just saying, if my fiance pulled up with that song for me, I probably would reconsider marrying them. Like, I know there is some positive undertones in the songs and in the song and lyrics, but like overall, it gives me this icky vibe that he's kind of like missing and kind of sentimental for his bachelor days, which is like kind of just weird to me, and I really don't like that trope, and I wish it would kind of just die because it's not funny or charming. It's just really fucking sad. Oh, here we go again. That isn't to say that this entire album's a flop. I really like Victorious and The Emperor's New Crown or something. Yeah, I really like those two songs. Victorious especially is a pretty good opener, pretty strong, very catchy, very poppy though. But songs like Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time just feel kind of repetitive and redundant because Victorious, for example, already accomplishes that same idea, but it's a better song. So Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time felt a bit redundant. A lot of these songs in general feel kind of like a chore to listen through, like Crazy Equals Genius. It's so repetitive 100 times. Like, the chorus is pretty charming at first, but then when you hear it like a bajillion times in a row, it's like, I don't really care anymore. You know? And like the sarcastic, cocky thing can only get you so far without it being like, bro, this ain't like sarcastic anymore. You're being dead ass. And I just gives me. So all in all, Death of a Bachelor, I'm gonna give it a C. I think Impossible Year as a ballad was pretty jarring. Like, I do like that he's finally like doing something a little different with the rest of the vibe, but it's just so slow and like me, like, in comparison. Like, it's not a strong ballad in my opinion. You can make much more beautiful ballads, and like, it's also kind of like an eye roll because everyone in 2016 was like, oh, it's the worst year ever. Wait till COVID hits, bitch. That shit was nothing. Like, it was like, oh my god. Kind of a weak ballad in my opinion. I prefer his older ones that felt more poetic, more meaningful, and not like stating the obvious, I guess. Okay, so now we must talk about High Hopes. Oh, just kidding. Pray for the wicked. But we have to talk about High Hopes because songs like this is what made Panic at the Disco a fucking sack of shit. I'm sorry. Every time I hear High Hopes on the radio, or like, I remember when I was working as a hostess at a restaurant, High Hopes would play every fucking millisecond. And I wanted to kill myself. Like, actually, like, what the fuck am I listening to right now? This is not the Brendan Urie that I know. Like, it feels like he sold himself to become like an industry plant or something. Like he just became so generic, so indistinguishable from everything else on the radio that I was just in awe. Like, what is this album? Need I say more? Hey, look, Ma, I made it. You got me fucked up. Abysmal. Diabolical. Why are you singing with Taylor Swift? Oh my god, bro. You're ugly. You're fucking ugly. I'm getting so mad. I'm not even gonna listen to the new Panic album. He made that new single that my friend showed me, and it's also pretty mid. I'm sorry. Like, how do you go from being so unique and interesting and like actually charming to like, I'm just gonna make whatever gives me the most money. Like, it's just sad to see you fell off for real. You're pissing me off. Get out of my face. I don't want to listen to your ugly ass voice ever again. You're in everything now. You're plaguing my mind. And I don't want to listen to you, Brendan, ever again. Get out of my face. Like, I don't want to hear, like, that song from The Greatest Showman keeps playing too. It just goes to show that Brendan Urie does not give a fuck anymore. Like, he's just gonna do whatever makes him money. He became rich and it kind of polluted his mind. Like, it's not even relatable anymore. Like, it just sounds like fucking rich people music that you go to like California and like your biggest problems are like how much pussy and drugs you're gonna do. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. You became so deluded in fame. And I mean, I know I'm getting like super heated, but he used to be like a normal person. Like, he just started off like anyone else. Like, he got so lucky with Fever. He was literally still in high school when that came out. And the way that he just changed and declined, like, as a person is just really fucking sad. And I just don't look up to him anymore. His music is mid as hell. And yeah, I'm giving that one a D. It's borderline unlistenable to me. It gives me a migraine. It's like dystopian as fuck too. Like, I don't know. I would 100% be more okay with listening to I Write Sins Not Tragedies a billion times on the radio over anything that he's made now, because at least I Write Sins Not Tragedies is really funny and has some kind of charm behind it, but everything now is just soulless. I think that's the biggest way I could describe it. It's soulless, it's boring, it's generic, and I think it hits so hard that it's so disappointing because I know what he used to be capable of. And I'm not saying he should go back to being like punk emo-ish, because I mean, only one of their albums ever was, and I didn't give a fuck. I liked their other albums. But this is just abysmal. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you for watching. Bye!